In just 31 seconds, one question would shatter the carefully crafted image and send a duchess storming off set in what would become one of the most explosive moments in talk show history. Andy Cohen sat across from Meghan Markle in his signature Bravo clubhouse, the intimate setting that had witnessed countless celebrity confessions. The atmosphere started cordial enough. Pleasant smiles, careful answers. But underneath the surface, tension was building like a pressure cooker about to explode. Andy leaned forward with that familiar glint in his eye, the one that signals he was about to ask the question everyone wanted answered, but nobody dared to ask. So, Meghan, a lot of people have wondered about your relationship with the rest of the royal family. Can you tell us what really happened with Kate? Because the stories we've heard seem to contradict what you've said publicly. Meghan's smile tightened. Her shoulders stiffened. You could see the shift happen in real time. Well, Andy, I think that's a very reductive way to frame a complex situation. The media has perpetuated so many lies about me, about my character, about my intentions. I came here thinking this would be a safe space to share my truth. Andy didn't back down. He never does. That's what makes him good at what he does. I understand that, but I'm asking specifically about the bridesmaid dress fitting. You said one thing in your interview, but palace sources and even some witnesses have said something completely different. Which version is accurate? The room went cold, dead silent. Meghan's face transformed from poised to something else entirely. Something sharper. Are you seriously questioning me right now? Do you have any idea what I've been through? The racism, the isolation, the absolute torture of being scrutinized every single day? I'm not questioning what you've been through, Andy replied, his voice steady and calm. I'm asking for clarification on a specific incident, because the facts don't seem to line up. That's when Meghan stood up. Not gradually, abruptly. Her chair scraped against the floor with a harsh sound that made everyone in the studio flinch. This is exactly what they do. This is the problem. I come here to tell my story, and instead I get interrogated like I'm on trial. I don't have to sit here and be disrespected. Andy remained seated, composed, professional. His voice never rose above that measured tone. Meghan, nobody is disrespecting you. I ask tough questions to all my guests. That's the format of the show. You knew that coming in. Tough questions? Meghan's voice climbed higher, the carefully maintained control slipping away. You're calling me a liar on national television. You're siding with the same institution that protected Andrew, that protected Charles. But somehow, I'm the problem? The audience sat frozen. You could have heard a pin drop. Andy's producer stood off to the side, unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Andy tried again, his patience remarkable under the circumstances. I'm not calling you anything. I'm doing what journalists do, which is ask follow-up questions when stories don't match. If you can explain the discrepancy, I'm all ears. That's why you're here. But Meghan wasn't hearing it. She was already reaching for her microphone pack, fumbling with the clip. No, I'm here because I thought you were different. I thought you understood what it's like to be marginalized, to be attacked for who you are. But you're just like the rest of them. You want to tear me down. Andy's expression shifted slightly. This was hitting a nerve now. That's not fair, and you know it. I've been nothing but respectful to you since you walked in here. I've given you a platform. I've let you speak. All I'm doing is asking you to back up your claims. Back up my claims? Meghan's laugh came out bitter, sharp. My lived experience needs to be backed up? The trauma I survived needs receipts? This is insane. She turned to the audience, playing to them now, her hands gesturing broadly. Do you see this? This is what happens when you speak truth to power. They try to silence you. They try to make you look crazy. Andy stood up now, and when he spoke, his voice carried an edge it hadn't before. Nobody is trying to silence you, Meghan. You've had interview after interview, Podcast after podcast, a Netflix series, a book deal. You've been speaking for years. What I'm trying to do is have an actual conversation, not just let you recite talking points. The mask fully slipped then. Meghan whirled back to face him, and her words came out in a rush. How dare you? How dare you minimize what I've been through? You have no idea what it's like to be me. To have the entire world turn against you. To have your own family betray you on the world stage. You're right, I don't, Andy said, and his composure in that moment was remarkable. But I do know what it's like to be asked difficult questions in an interview, and I've never walked off set because of it. That was the line. That was the moment everything detonated. Meghan's face flushed red. Her voice rose to a level that surprised everyone in the room. You are not going to speak to me like that. Do you know who I am? I am a duchess. I have met with world leaders. I have a platform of millions. I don't need to sit here and be insulted by a talk show host. The collective gasp from the audience was audible. Even the cameramen looked shocked. Andy's response was measured but firm. And I'm the host of this show, in this studio, where I've interviewed presidents, activists, and yes, even other royalty who managed to answer questions without throwing a tantrum. A tantrum? Meghan's voice cracked. You think this is a tantrum? This is me standing up for myself, something I should have done a long time ago. She was moving toward the exit now, her handler rushing forward to try to salvage the situation. But Meghan waved her off. Andy called after her, his voice calm, but carrying across the studio. Meghan, you can leave if you want. But walking away from questions doesn't make them go away. It just makes people wonder what you're hiding. She spun around one last time, her finger pointed at him. I'm not hiding anything. I am protecting my peace. Something you clearly know nothing about. This interview is over. The interview was never really started, Andy replied. You can't have an interview when only one person is allowed to talk. Meghan's jaw dropped. For a second, it looked like she might charge back toward the set. Her publicist grabbed her arm, whispering urgently. Let go of me, Meghan hissed, loud enough for the microphones to catch. I'm leaving. This is beneath me. Andy returned to his seat, settling back in as if nothing had happened. His voice carried that signature dry wit. Well, that was something. I've had guests disagree with me before, but usually they stick around long enough to actually make their point. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or stay silent. A few nervous chuckles broke out. Meghan was at the studio door now, her heels clicking rapidly against the floor. She turned back one final time, her voice projecting across the space. You will regret this, Andy. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Andy raised an eyebrow, that trademark expression that said everything without words. I'm dealing with someone who agreed to an interview, but wanted a coronation instead. Good luck with that. The door slammed. The sound echoed through the studio like a gunshot. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every stunned face, every open mouth, every wide eye. Andy looked directly into the camera, his expression a mixture of amusement and disbelief. So, that happened. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll be joined by someone who actually wants to have a conversation. Stay with us. The commercial break signal flashed, but the audience remained in their seats, buzzing with energy. What had just unfolded was unprecedented, explosive. The kind of television moment that would be replayed and dissected for weeks to come. Off camera, Andy's team huddled around him. His producer looked concerned. Are you okay? That was intense. Andy shrugged, taking a sip of water. I've dealt with worse. She came in thinking she could control the narrative completely, and when she couldn't, she ran. Simple as that. One of the crew members spoke up. Do you think she'll try to spin this somehow? Andy's laugh was dry. Oh, I guarantee it. By tomorrow we'll be the villains in her next interview. But we have the footage. People can see exactly what happened. The makeup artist approached to touch up his face for the next segment. That was wild, Andy. I've been working here for 8 years, and I've never seen anything like that. Neither have I, Andy admitted, and I've seen a lot. Back in the hallway, Meghan's voice could be heard, muffled but agitated, as she spoke rapid fire to her team. Words like ambush and set up floated through the walls. Her publicist was on the phone already, no doubt trying to get ahead of the story that was about to break across every media platform. Inside the studio, Andy checked his notes for the next guest. His hands were steady. His demeanor was cool. This wasn't his first rodeo, and it wouldn't be his last. 30 seconds, the stage manager called out. Andy looked up at the audience, many of whom were still staring at the door Meghan had exited through, as if expecting her to burst back in. All right, everyone, let's get back to it. We've got a great show still ahead. The energy in the room was electric. Everyone present knew they'd just witnessed something that would become part of talk show legend. The moment a duchess walked off set because she couldn't handle being asked to explain her own words. 10 seconds. Andy straightened his jacket, settled into his seat, that familiar smile returning to his face. The smile of someone who knew exactly what made good television and had just delivered it in spades. 5, 4, 3. The cameras went live again. Andy's face filled screens across the country. Welcome back. Well, as you just saw, Meghan has left the building. I want to be clear about what happened here. I asked a straightforward question about a story she herself has told publicly. When I asked for clarification on conflicting accounts, she chose to leave rather than answer. That's her right, but it's also telling. He paused, letting that sink in. I've been doing this job for a long time. I've interviewed thousands of people. Politicians who've been caught in scandals. Celebrities who've had public meltdowns. Reality stars who've done truly questionable things. And you know what? Most of them can sit in that chair and have a conversation, even when it gets uncomfortable. Another pause. His timing was impeccable. But apparently, asking about a bridesmaid dress is where we draw the line. Noted. The audience laughed, the tension finally breaking. Now, my next guest is someone who knows a thing or two about handling pressure with grace. The show continued, but everyone's mind was still on what had just transpired. In the control room, the director was already cutting together the footage, knowing this would be the clip that defined the episode, the season, maybe even the year. Social media was exploding. Clips were being shared before the commercial break had even ended. Hashtags were trending. Think pieces were being drafted in real time. The debate had already begun. Team Andy versus Team Meghan. Those who saw a journalist doing his job versus those who saw an attack on a woman who'd already been through enough. But the footage didn't lie. The words spoken were clear. The reactions were genuine. The walk-off was real. Andy had remained calm, professional, persistent. He'd asked fair questions and maintained his composure even when being yelled at, even when being threatened. Meghan had escalated, deflected, and ultimately fled rather than engage with anything that challenged her narrative. One person came to have a conversation. The other came expecting worship. And when those two approaches collided, there was only ever going to be one outcome. The interview that never was had somehow become the most talked about interview of the year. The 31 seconds between Andy's question and Meghan's exit had contained enough drama to fuel 1,000 think pieces. In the makeup room, staff replayed the moment on their phones, watching Meghan's face change, watching the anger build, watching the control slip away. She really thought she could just say whatever she wanted and not get pushed back, one of them murmured. That's what happens when you surround yourself with yes people, another replied. You forget that the real world doesn't work that way. The show wrapped. Andy thanked his remaining guests, thanked the audience, thanked his crew, professional to the end. But as the lights dimmed and people filed out, everyone was still talking about her. The duchess who couldn't handle a question. The woman who demanded truth but couldn't provide it. The guest who became the story for all the wrong reasons. Andy packed up his things, checked his phone, saw the notifications exploding. Messages from other hosts, from journalists, from friends. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What really happened? And the answer was simple. Really. What happened was that someone came on a talk show expecting a puff piece and got journalism instead. Someone wanted to control every word, every moment, every narrative beat. And when they couldn't, they revealed exactly who they were. Not a victim, not a hero, just someone who couldn't handle being asked to back up their own stories. The studio went dark. The crew went home. The audience dispersed into the night, already telling everyone they knew about what they'd witnessed. And somewhere, Meghan was probably on the phone, spinning the story, playing the victim, blaming Andy for her own inability to answer a simple question. But the tape would show the truth. It always does. Andy had done his job. He'd asked the questions that needed asking. He'd remained professional when professionalism was met with hostility. He'd given her every opportunity to explain, to clarify, to engage. She'd chosen explosion over explanation, drama over dialogue, exit over engagement. And in doing so, she'd told everyone watching exactly what they needed to know, not through her carefully crafted words or her rehearsed talking points, but through her actions, through her inability to handle the most basic function of an interview, which is to answer questions about things you yourself have said publicly. The lights in the Bravo clubhouse went out one by one. The set that had hosted so many memorable moments had just added another to its